but we also are involved in a lot of other stuff. So we're very heavily involved in FDA clinical trials, research. We're trying out a lot of new technology, new offerings that have not been stateside approved yet that are available to the rest of our colleagues, around the world. And we're really
We're in the third world.
we're in the third world, right? It's amazing, but we're the ones testing out the technology, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then helping push that through the approval process. So our patients really get the latest cutting edge technology. Were you doing any of this sort of research clinical trials before you joined this
No,
practice?
no, absolutely not. I mean, in fact, in my mind, I always felt like research is something that was pretty much relegated to the academic world, and that in a private practice setting, you would not have that opportunity. So this was fantastic from that perspective. And actually, when I joined the practice over here, we weren't doing any research either. I would say it's only been after about maybe 5 years or so. Bill and I struggled a lot initially in terms of getting our research department off the ground, because when you've never done trials before, the companies will look at you and say, in fact, we actually didn't do much in the way of when I partnered up with Bill, we weren't even doing much speaking as far as industry is concerned. We weren't going to conferences. This was sort of an evolution that took place over time. And initially, we started speaking, going to different conferences, things of that nature. But the research was probably the hardest thing, because until you develop a track record, companies are not going to be willing to give you a phase 2 trial. So we kind of worked with different people. And I think Kevin Waltz from Indianapolis helped us out quite a bit when talking about, well, you have to hire a full-time research coordinator. Even though we didn't have a trial in place, we went ahead and put forth the investment to try to hire this right person to try to help you through this process. And gradually it's kind of built up where now we are part of lots of trials.
So what was that organic development or evolution like? I mean, did you start with IITs at first? Did you really just kind of wait until you had a research team in place and then a company or some industry firm gave you that opportunity for the first research?
Yeah. So I would say that IITs are something that we didn't do a whole lot of. It seems like it takes a lot of work, and the compensation in general doesn't tend to be as great. So I would say from an organic perspective, the first thing we did was we first looked for a good research coordinator. Now, a lot of people say, well, you can take your best tech that's out there and convert them into a research coordinator. And that can be done, but we basically felt that let's start with getting a formal research coordinator. Not necessarily have to have ophthalmology experience, but just understands the language, understands all of, because everything is very, very much that you have to go by the books. You can't take any chance of that. And then after that, the companies kind of knew who we were, but obviously we've not done any trials. So where they felt comfortable with would be in a phase 4 trial where something's already been approved, but they need to kind of do a certain number of cases with that. So we went ahead and did that. And I think the key thing that any company is looking for when they conduct trials are, number one, they want to make sure you have good outcomes. But number two, they want to make sure that if they select you for a trial, that you will go ahead and enroll a certain number of patients. Because typically you may have 8 to 10 sites, and each site's expected to maybe enroll 20, 25 patients. But if you can consistently be one of the top 2 or 3 enrollers, then all of a sudden you start getting noticed that, hey, this trial does a great job whenever we come. This clinic does a great job with it. So after we did a few phase 4 trials, that's when we got our first phase 3 trial. Of course, once we got that, we basically told ourselves, we're going to kill this. I mean, we told everyone that we're going to over-enroll and just make sure that we really end up the top enroller, do a great job in it. Did great with that. And then once you do good with one company, typically that company will give you another trial. And then over time, other companies start to come in and just slowly start snowballing. And we found our forte tends to be more with IOL trials. Just because we've got a high cataract volume, it's very easy for us to go ahead and recruit patients. And I feel the beauty of research is a couple aspects. Number one, it gives you access to technology that your colleagues on the street don't have access to. So you have the ability to be able to offer something that no one else has inside there. Once you have that, you get a chance to see, well, do you really like it or not? Is it as good as you think it's going to be? So that if and when that product gets approved, you are already on the front end where you kind of know what exactly happens with this product. Because every time something gets approved, it never quite performs exactly the same way as what you think it is. There's always going to be some nuances to it. So because you've been involved with that trial, you already know that, well, this patient does well with it, this patient doesn't do well. So it puts you a step ahead of everyone else that's out there. And you know how to incorporate it into your system and things like that. So I think that's one big aspect of research that's great. The other big aspect is it gives you the opportunity, especially when it comes to cataract surgery, where let's say you have a patient that comes in and would like to have an upgraded lens, but from an economic perspective, they don't have the ability to go ahead and go with that. Well, potentially we may have a trial that he could go ahead and enroll in, and it gives them access to this technology that they may not have. So even though we may upgrade a certain number of patients, but through our research department, there's another subset of patients that we've in a sense upgraded to a higher technology. So I think it's just a win-win for us, for the patients, and for the company as well.